Hi and welcome in our channel Alive Inc. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe for our future videos, and thank you very much in advance.
In any gripping story, the villain plays a crucial role. A well-crafted antagonist can elevate the stakes, challenge the hero, and bring layers of complexity to your plot. But what separates an unforgettable villain from a forgettable one? It's not just their evil deeds, it's their depth, motivations, and the human emotions that drive them. Villains who feel real, who have relatable goals and motivations, are the ones that captivate readers and make a story truly compelling. In this video, we'll explore tips for creating believable villains with realistic motivations. Whether you're writing a thriller, fantasy, or a simple drama, these tips will help you craft antagonists who are more than just obstacles for your hero. They'll become characters that stand on their own. 1. Understand the purpose of a villain. Before diving into your villain's background and motivations, it's essential to understand their role in the story. Villains exist to challenge the protagonist, creating conflict that drives the narrative forward. However, a villain should be more than a roadblock for the hero. They should have goals, desires, and conflicts of their own. A great villain mirrors the protagonist in some way. They may represent the darker side of the hero's struggle, showing what the hero could become if they took a different path. This not only makes the villain more interesting, but also enhances the hero's journey, providing a deeper emotional connection for readers. Tip: think of your villain as a fully developed character rather than a plot device. What do they want? Why do they oppose the hero? How do their beliefs clash with the protagonists? 2. Give your villain relatable motivations. One of the most important aspects of crafting a believable villain is ensuring that their motivations make sense. The days of the mustache-twirling villain who wants to take over the world just because are long gone. Readers crave depth, and the best villains are those who have clear, understandable reasons for their actions, even if those reasons are morally wrong. To make your villain's motivations more relatable, consider the following. What drives them? Are they motivated by power, revenge, survival, love, or fear? What are their core beliefs? Villains often believe they are justified in their actions. They might see themselves as the hero of their own story. What's their backstory? A well-developed background can explain why your villain behaves the way they do. Did they experience a traumatic event? Were they betrayed or oppressed? Tip: try giving your villain a motivation that readers can sympathize with, even if they don't agree with the villain's methods. This will make them feel more human and complex. 3. Avoid the stereotypical evil for the sake of evil trope. It's easy to fall into the trap of making your villain evil just for the sake of it, but this can lead to flat, one-dimensional characters. To avoid this, focus on creating a well-rounded villain who has a mix of good and bad traits, just like any other character. Think about what makes your villain tick beyond their evil actions. Do they have a moral code, even if it's twisted? Do they care about certain people or causes? Villains can have moments of kindness, humor, or vulnerability, and these layers make them far more engaging. Tip: even the most villainous characters should have moments where they question their actions or feel regret, doubt, or even compassion. These moments of inner conflict will humanize them and make them more compelling. 4. Explore the villain's relationships. No one exists in a vacuum, and your villain shouldn't either. The relationships your villain has with others can provide insight into their character and motivations. Are they loyal to a mentor or loved one? Do they have subordinates they respect or despise? Do they have a complicated relationship with the hero? Villains who have complex relationships, whether it's with the protagonist, allies, or enemies, feel more real and multi-dimensional. These relationships also provide opportunities for deeper emotional conflict, adding tension to the story. Tip: consider how your villain's relationships shape their decisions. Do they betray someone they once trusted? Do they have a loved one they're trying to protect, even if it means committing terrible acts? 5. Create a sympathetic villain. Sympathetic villains are those whose actions may be evil, but whose motivations make sense, and whose pain or suffering evokes empathy from the reader. These villains often blur the line between right and wrong, and their complexity adds richness to the story. A sympathetic villain could be someone who turns to crime out of desperation or fear. Perhaps they once held noble ideals, but were corrupted by the harsh realities of life. By giving your villain a sympathetic backstory, you allow readers to see them as more than just the bad guy. They become a tragic figure, a victim of circumstance. Tip: introduce moments where the reader glimpses the villain's humanity. Maybe they're driven by a sense of loss, fear, or trauma that the reader can relate to, even if they don't agree with the villain's actions. 6. Give your villain their own arc. Just like your hero, your villain should have an arc, a journey that changes them over the course of the story. This arc could involve them growing more powerful, more desperate, or even redeeming themselves by the end. A static villain who stays the same throughout the entire story will feel less engaging than one who evolves as the plot progresses. A villain's arc doesn't necessarily mean they become good or repent for their actions. In many cases, the arc could involve them doubling down on their evil, becoming even more ruthless as they face opposition. But this change should feel organic, driven by the events of the story and the character's internal conflicts. Tip: think about how the story's events affect your villain. Do they gain new insights or become more obsessed with their goals? How does the protagonist's journey impact them? 7. Show the villain's perspective. If possible, show scenes from the villain's point of view. This allows readers to get inside the antagonist's mind, understanding their thoughts and motivations on a deeper level. By giving the villain a voice, you can show their justification for their actions, even if those actions are wrong. Villain POV scenes can also create tension by revealing information to the reader that the protagonist doesn't know. This can heighten suspense, as readers anticipate when the hero will discover the villain's plans or motives. Tip: balance villain POV scenes with the protagonist's perspective. Too much focus on the villain can shift the reader's attention away from the hero, so use these scenes strategically. 8. Avoid making the villain too powerful. While it's tempting to make your villain all-powerful, doing so can reduce the tension in your story. If the villain is too strong or undefeatable, readers may feel that the protagonist has no chance of winning, which can make the conflict feel hopeless. Instead, give your villain strengths, but also weaknesses. Perhaps they are overconfident or have a blind spot when it comes to certain people or situations. Maybe they have a physical limitation or a personal weakness that can be exploited. These vulnerabilities make the villain more human and create opportunities for the protagonist to triumph. Tip: make sure your villain's weaknesses are tied to their personality or motivations. For example, a villain driven by greed might make reckless decisions in pursuit of wealth, while a villain motivated by love might hesitate to harm someone they care about. 9. Let the villain win. Sometimes, a great villain isn't one who constantly fails. To maintain the tension and stakes in your story, allow the villain to win some battles, even if they don't win the war. These victories could involve outsmarting the hero, achieving a major goal, or causing significant harm to the protagonist's allies. By letting the villain succeed occasionally, you increase the suspense and make the protagonist's ultimate victory feel more hard-earned and satisfying. Tip: the villain's small victories should have lasting consequences that affect the protagonist and the overall plot. This keeps the reader engaged and invested in the story's outcome. Conclusion: creating a believable villain requires more than just giving them evil deeds or a menacing appearance. By focusing on their motivations, relationships, and inner conflicts, you can craft a well-rounded antagonist who feels just as real as your hero. Remember, the best villains are those who challenge the hero on multiple levels emotionally, mentally, and physically, and who have relatable, understandable reasons for their actions. With these tips, you can create compelling, realistic villains that will leave a lasting impact on your readers and add depth to your novel. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and see you all in the next video.